Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Yasser Ahmed. In this video we're going to be looking at spreadsheet formulas and functions. We're going to be looking at the basic formulas and functions, including sum, max, min and average. And as we go through this task, we're going to be completing some functions from the GCSE course as well as the AS level ICT course as well. So it's going to get more challenging as we go through. Now you might be thinking, what are these different colours for? So the easier tasks will be beginning, and as we go through this activity, the more challenging activities, tasks will be exceeding for my Year 9 students. So this is a mock examination for my Year 9s, but this task will also be useful for those people who are doing the GCSE course and those who are also learning functions for the A-level course as well. So we're going to start with task 1, simple formulas and functions. What I'm going to do is zoom in slightly so we can have a look at this information here. So what we have are mobile phones. We have the price for each phone, the quantity we've sold for each phone, and then for the total, what we need to do is basically insert a formula which is going to multiply the price by the sold. Okay, so to insert a formula, what we need to do is to insert equals. So every time we start a formula or functions, we always start with equals, and we're going to refer to the cell reference. So the cell reference for price is D5. Then I'm going to press the multiplication button on my keyboard, which is the asterisk, which you can find in the top right of the keyboard. And then we're going to click on E5, which refers to the sold quantity. So when I press enter, the formula is going to work out the value for me. So it's going to basically multiply the price by the sold. So whatever's in D5 will be multiplied by E5. Let's press enter, and this is the value. Now the great thing about using formulas is once we've got a formula in place, if I change any one of these values, so let's say we didn't sell 33 phones, we've sold 40 phones, the formula will work out the new value for us. So let's press enter, and sometimes you may see hashtags. What that basically means is the value is not fitting within the cell, so we can increase the column size. If you press your left mouse button down, you can drag the column size to make it bigger, and you can see this is the new calculation. Okay, the next thing that you can do is, rather than repeating the same steps for the rest of these cells, if you go to the bottom corner of the cell, you'll see a black cross. You can press your left mouse button down and you can drag or replicate the formula down all the way to the bottom here. Let's press enter. Let's click on this cell here, for example, and you can see it's going to be D9 multiplied by E9. So that was the simple formula. Now we're going to be using the simple functions. So if I want to add up all of these numbers together, we're going to be using sum, and you can refer to the description as well to add all the numbers in a range of cells. So let's double click on sum. The bracket will open, and let's highlight the first cell and go down to F11. So we start from F5 going all the way down to F11. So this is a range of cells we want to add from. You can close the bracket and then press enter. So that's the total. To work out the highest, we're going to use the max function. So returns the largest values. It's always worth reading the descriptions for the functions. Again, open a bracket, highlight the cells that you want to find the highest from. So the highest value should be the 19,000 figure. Close the bracket, enter. Yep. To work out the lowest, it's going to be equal min. Returns the smallest number in a set of values. Let's double click the min. The bracket will open. Let's highlight the range of cells again, and the lowest should be this value here, so 3,680. Close the bracket, and then to work out the average, it's going to be equal average. So these are your basic functions that you should learn. Okay, so just to recap, equal sum adds up numbers, equal max finds the highest value, equal min finds the lowest value within the range, and then the average works out the average values from the range. Right, so that's the first part done. Let's go down to the simple formula. So remember, we start a formula by clicking on the equal button or pressing on the equal button on the keyboard, and again we're going to refer to the cell referencing. So this calculation is going to be an addition, so it's going to be C20 plus E20. On this occasion I can't drag down the formula because we have different types of calculations. We have multiplication, we have division, we have subtraction, and then we add in again. So I have to do these separately. So again, let's refer to the cell reference. Press the appropriate button for the multiplication sign and then click on this cell here. So it's going to be 5 times 10, should give me 50. The next one's going to be 100 divided by 2. Enter. This time it's going to be subtraction. And the final one will be the addition. So we can click on this cell plus this cell here. And again, the great thing about formulas is if you enter a greater value, automatically the formula will work out the new calculation for you, the new value. Okay, so that was the first part, simple formulas and functions. Task 2, we're going to be looking at functions and absolute cell referencing, so locking a cell. So what we have here are DVDs. We have DVDs by different genre, type. This is the amount we sold. This is a price for each DVD. Now for the tax, what we need to do is basically multiply the price by the tax. Now this is a price here, and this is a tax. And we're going to be using absolute cell referencing, and that's where we have to lock a cell. So let's start. Again, it's going to be a simple formula. So we start by typing in, clicking on equals. Let's click on a price. Multiplication sign again. And we're going to be multiplying by this percentage here. So this is a tax. Now what we need to do for this task is to lock this cell. For this first example, I'm not going to lock the cell, and I'm going to show you what happens if you don't lock the cell. So this has worked because if I double click, it's the price multiplied by this percentage, and that's the correct value here. However, if I now replicate, drag this formula down, you will notice it's not working for the rest of the cells. So let's click on this one. You can see this box has moved away from this percentage, and again this has moved further away from the percentage. So what we need to do is use absolute cell referencing to keep this percentage locked in, even if you drag down the formula. So what you do is you click on this cell. Now depending on your keyboard, you may press F4 or you may press function and F4 to lock a cell. So I have to press function and F4 on my keyboard. You will see the dollar signs, and that shows me that this cell will be locked. So now if I replicate the formula down, you can see this is relative to this position. However, this percentage has been locked into place by using absolute cell referencing. So later on we're going to be using absolute cell referencing when we're using different types of functions, including VLOOKUPs or SUMIFs. Now the price is going to be the price plus the tax. So this is the tax, and we want to basically add these two values together. So it's going to be a simple formula, price plus tax, and then we can drag this formula down. So this is, we're going to be replicating this formula. Okay, so let's save our changes. Now let's look at task 3. I'm going to zoom out slightly because I need to use the table above. So for task 3, we're going to be doing sum if and also creating a graph, and the graph will be placed in the space below here. So remember, sum is used to calculate all of the values within a range. So let's say we want to work out the total of all of the sold. We use sum. So that's the total here. Now what if we just want to add by a criteria? So the first example here is we only want to add the DVDs which are being sold. Okay, so what I don't want to do is do something like this. So this plus this plus this. Okay, so imagine you had a long list. Okay, you'll be there all day doing that. It still gives you an answer, and for some reason the currency formatting is shown, so let me change this to general. What we're going to be doing is using sum if. Now let's look at the description first of all. So sum if adds the cells specified by a given condition or criteria. Now the criteria is going to be DVD. We only want to add if the type is DVD. So let's double click to open up the bracket. We've got 3 parts to this formula: the range, the criteria, and sum range. Let's first of all identify the criteria. So the criteria in this example would be DVD. For the range, where can we find the DVD? So the DVD will be in this range of cells here. So we're going to refer to this for the range. Comma, the criteria will be this cell here. And then the sum range is what is it that we want to add from, and it's going to be the sold. So what we're going to be doing is first of all highlighting the range. So it's going to be where is the DVD, where is the criteria. it's in this range of cells here. And what we're going to be doing is locking this range of cells, because I'm going to be replicating this formula down, and we want to keep these cells locked into one place. So again, we can use absolute cell referencing. You'll see the dollar signs up here, comma, the criteria is going to be DVD, so let's refer to the cell here, comma, and the sum range is basically what we're looking to add, and what we're looking to add is going to be sold. So again, this range of cells, whilst it's highlighted, we want to lock it. So press your buttons on the keyboard to lock the cells, and let's close a bracket. And before we press enter, you'll notice these two ranges have been locked, because if I drag down the formula, they're going to stay in one place. However, the criteria is relative. It's going to change when I drag it down, so it's going to be referring to H17 for Blu-ray. Okay, let's press enter. So 152, let's drag this formula down, and we've got 79. So this now refers to this criteria, but these two ranges have been locked into place. So that's the sum if. If I was to add these two together, or we could just use a simple formula, we will get the total from before. Yeah, it was the same total as this. Let me just double check. Yeah, 200 and yeah, same total as before. So let's delete these ones here. We're going to do sum if again, but this time the criteria is going to be by genre. So we're going to refer to this range, this criteria, and the same sum range again. So we add in by a criteria. So sum if, again, you can read the description, adds the cells specified by a given condition or criteria. Double click on sum if. Range, again, refer to your criteria. Where can you see the criteria? It falls within this range of cells. On this example, I'm not going to lock the cells, because I want to show you what happens if you don't lock the cells, and then we'll fix it later. Comma, the criteria is going to be this cell here, comma, and then the sum range is going to be this range of cells. So I'm purposely on this occasion not going to lock the cells to show you the mistake that some of you may make. So what's going to happen is going to look up this range for this criteria. So we'll come down to here, and we should get 65, because there's only one example of this criteria. Okay, again, I don't know why we have the currency as formatting. So that's worked, but if I drag this down, you may see numbers and you may think, yeah, that looks like it has worked. But if I click on this one here, you'll see these two range of cells are moving away from their positions. So that's why we do lock. And if you realize you haven't locked, you can always go back. You can highlight the full range, so that refers to the blue range. Let's press the button to lock the cells. So make sure the complete range has been locked, and also this as well. Let's lock this. So if you do realize you didn't lock the cells, you can always go back, and you can lock the cells later on as well. So this has changed slightly, and now these ranges have been locked into place, but the criteria is relative to the position of the cell that you're in. Okay, again, let me save the changes. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a vertical bar chart. Okay, I forgot to include a chart showing a movie name and the sold amount. You need to include appropriate axis labels and place a graph below. So what we want to do is highlight DVDs, and you'll notice as soon as I highlight the sold column, this becomes deselected. So to highlight both columns, you press and you keep pressed down control button on your keyboard, you keep that pressed, and then you can highlight the sold column as well. And then to create the graph, you can see both ranges have been selected. You go to insert, okay, you click on the bar chart icon, and then what you want to do is select this icon here to create a vertical bar chart. So here's our bar chart. Let's move it down. So what we have here is basically a graph showing the movie names and how many we've sold. But what we need to do is include axes. Now there's two ways of doing that. You can go to quick layouts, select option 9 to include the axes. So these are the axes here. Or you can click on the plus icon and include the axes by clicking on the plus icon here. So the first thing we're going to do is rename these axes. So these are movies. Okay, this is the sold amount. And then we can include a title for the graph. So graph showing movie sales, for example. And then the last thing that we can do for this graph is we can edit each bar. so it's going to be a specific color. I prefer just to click on the bar, go to the paint bucket, choose a color, and then you can see the legend showing up on the right hand side. So let's choose a different color for each bar. We can keep that blue, green, purple, and here's a legend referring to each bar. So this basically graph shows the movie sales. Okay, so let's increase the size so it fills the whole space. Yeah, and let's save the changes. Okay, let's now move forward to task 4, count functions. So we're going to be looking at 3 different types of counts. We're going to be looking at count, count A, and count if. So let's first of all look at count. So why do we use count? Now count is used to count only numbers. So if I type in equal count, you can see here's the different counts that we can use. Let's read the description. Counts the numbers, or counts the number of cells in a range that contains numbers. So we want to count in this range how many cells contains numbers. Double click the count function to open a bracket, highlight the range, and what we should have is 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells contains numbers. Let's close the bracket, enter. Yep, we've got 6. Now if I include another number within this range, you can see it goes to 7. Let's include another number, it goes to 8. If I include letters, you can see the letters are not being counted. Let's include another letter. Okay, let's delete the letters. It's not going to make any difference. Okay, so let me go back. I'm just going to press Ctrl Z to go back to what we had initially. So we've got 6 numbers initially. So a count will count only numbers. Now what we need to do next is to work out the maximum number, minimum number, and the average. And again, we're going to use the simple formulas of simple functions we used before. To find the highest, it's going to be max. So we can highlight from top to bottom. Let me just, let's see, we've got the highest for the first cell, going to the bottom cell. Min. Highlight from top to bottom. Now you notice that I'm not closing the brackets, I'm just pressing enter. If you click here, you'll see the brackets automatically close on these functions. So 34 is the highest, 1 is the lowest, and let's work out the average. Okay, so 7.833 is the average. Now what we're going to be doing is counting all of these nationalities. So if count counts only numbers, we're going to use count A now, and let's read the description for count A. So count A counts the number of cells in a range that basically are not empty. So if the cell has some text in, or some letters in, or some numbers in, it's basically going to count it. So let's double click to open up the brackets. Let's highlight the range of cells we want to count from, and basically if a cell is not empty, it's going to count it. What we should have is 12. Yep, so we've got 12 different nationalities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If I delete one of these cells and make it empty, you'll notice this number will go down to 11. If I include numbers, it's going to count it. If I include like symbols, it still will count the values. So unless the cell is empty, it's not going to count it. Okay, so we've gone down to 11. Let me type French back in. Right, now we're going to be using the next count function, and that's going to be count if, because what we want to do now is count if we have a criteria, and we have 3 different criteria here. We have category, we have French, we have Spanish. Okay, so remember, count is only to count numbers. Count A counts everything, including letters, numbers, symbols, and if you're counting something specific, it's going to be count if. Now I'm going to show you a quicker method in a moment, but let me show you the slower method of doing this. So let's select count if, read the description, counts the number of cells within a range that meet the given condition. So let's double click count if, we have the range. So where can we see this criteria? The criteria falls within this range of cells here, comma, and the criteria, what you can do, you can write it within speech marks. Okay, so we're looking for this criteria here. Okay, close the bracket, make sure you don't make any spelling mistakes, and we should have 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the correct answer. I can't drag this down because I've specifically said we're looking for this specific nationality. Okay, and if I do drag it down, also you'll notice the range is going to move position as well. So this is moving away, and this is not the correct criteria. Criteria is not matching up to Spanish. So what we can do, we can use absolute cell referencing again to make our lives easier. We just do the formula once, or the function once, and we drag it down. So what? Let me do it again. Count if. So these criteria fall within this range here, and I'm going to lock this range. Okay, so when I do drag down the formula, this is not going to move anywhere. Let's press comma, and the criteria, rather than writing it in speech marks, I'm going to refer to this cell which contains the first criteria. We're not going to lock this, so when I do drag it down, this will change to French and then to Spanish. Close the bracket, enter. So we've got 5, we've got 3 for French, 2 for Spanish. So let's count the French again. So we've got 1, 2, 3 for French. Spanish, we've got 1, 2. So if I double click here, you can see this is locked into place, and the criteria is referencing to the position of the cell here. So that's relative. This is absolute, and this would be the relative position according to the location of the cell that you're in now. Press enter. Job done. So that's different counts. So remember, to count only numbers, we use count. Count anything, letters, numbers, symbols, is count A. And to count something specific, it's going to be count if. Now for task 5, we're going to be looking at extracting and concatenate. So we're going to be using the left function, the right function, and the mid function to extract values from these cells here. So the first thing we need to do is extract the left 2 characters. So we're going to use the left function. We can read the description again. So returns the specified numbers of characters from the start of a text string. So this is text. You can see this text also includes numbers, but because this includes text, it is basically going to be a text string. So let's click on equal left. So the text that we want to refer to is going to be this employee ID, comma, and from the left hand side we want to extract 2 characters. So this is number of characters we want to extract. Let's close the bracket, and we should see A and B being extracted. We can drag this down. So next example should be AC and then DA according to the left characters. Now we want to extract from the right hand side. So returns the specified number of characters from the end of a text string. So now we're going to be referring to the last couple of characters. So again, we refer to the employee ID as a text. We type in comma, and the number of characters we want from the right hand side is going to be 2, and then close the bracket, and then again you can drag this down. So 76, 77 and 78 are the characters we extracted from the right. Well, let's say for example for numbers of characters, if I type in 3, we should extract 5, 7 and 6 because that's the last 3 characters from the right hand side. Since we only want 2, let's change this back to 2. Now what we want to do is extract to the middle characters. So it's going to be these gold amber characters here. So for the mid, you have a slightly different part of this function. So starts off the same. From which text do you want to extract the values from? So I want to extract from this text here. And then this is slightly different. So where do you want to start extracting the numbers from, or the characters from? And we want to start extracting from the 4th character in. So not this one, not this one, not this one. This is a 4th character in. So 1, 2, 3, 4th character in. And then comma. How many characters do you want to extract? So 4th characters in, and we want to extract 2 characters only. I've made a mistake here. So the start number is going to be 4, and from the 4th character in we want to extract only 2 characters. Let's close the bracket, and you can see we've got 34. Hopefully the next one should be 39 and then 21. Okay, let's drag this down. Okay, so that's basically the left function, which extracts from the left hand side. You identify the text and then how many characters you want from the left side. The right does the same thing, but you end up extracting from the right hand side of the text. The mid basically extracts values from the middle of the text string. Okay, so that's that part done. Now we're going to be using looking at concatenate. There's 2 ways to concatenate. Let me show you the first example here. So what that basically means is we want to join cells together. Now this method is used without using a function. So if I click on this cell here, then if I press shift and 7 to get AND, so what we want to do is join this cell to this cell to this cell. So we're going to use AND to join the cells together. So I want to join this to this and this cell together, and that will give me AB 7634. So we're not using a formula, we're just using AND. But you'll notice we don't have any spaces. What if you wanted a space? So what you need to do is basically click after AND, include a speech mark, space, speech mark, and again, whoops, and then again, and speech mark, and then you can press enter, and then you can see you've got the space here. So that's one way of joining values from different cells together. Okay. The other way of doing it is to use the concatenate function. So if you use the concatenate function, you don't need to use the AND. You basically separate the values by including commas. So it's up to you which method you want to use. So what we're going to do is join all the words to form a simple sentence in the yellow cell here. So you need to join these cells together. So the sentence that we were looking to create is the cat sat on the mat. And this time I'm going to use concatenate, and you can see, let me just spell it right. Have I spelled it right? Yeah. So CT. So joins several text strings into one text string. So we want to click on this function here, and you can see text 1 will be separated by a comma. So the first thing that we want is the comma cat comma sat comma on the mat. And I know I've made a mistake. You're probably saying, oh, he's missed something. So if I close the bracket, you'll see there's no space in between the words, okay? But the values have been separated by comma, so there's no and. Now to include a space, after the first comma, we just enter the speech mark, space, speech mark, comma. And then after the second, or this comma here, we can also include a speech mark, comma. So to include a space, you basically include speech marks and have the space within the speech marks, and then we need to have a space here as well, and then a space here as well. Whoops, I got a comma in the wrong place then. So let's look at this now. So that's the first value, so that refers to this cell here. Look at the colors as well. Comma, the second value, the second text will be a space. The third text will basically be cat. The fourth text will be the space. The fifth text will be, okay, let me sat. So now if I press enter, you can see the cat sat on the mat. So it's up to you if you want to use the function to join text strings together, or you can use the AND to join text strings together. It works the same way. I prefer to use a concatenate function. What have we done there? Enter. Let's just press enter. Right, for this task here, you need to use appropriate extract and concatenate functions to complete the above tasks. So we use extract here, we use concatenate here, and then what we need to do is we have some information here. We have the name, age, year, and the form, and we want to make a sentence. So I'm going to use concatenate again. And what we're going to say is, in speech marks, my name is, I'm going to have a space, speech mark, comma, and then we're going to take the value from this cell here. So my name is, and whatever's in this cell, it's going to be shown. If I press enter, let's close the bracket, you can see my name is Billy. If I change this into my name is Yasser. Okay, so it takes the value from the cell here. Now we want to include another text string, so let's type in comma, speech mark. Let's have a space because we don't want the next part to be joined onto Yasser, so let's have a space. And my age is, have a space, comma. Let's click on this cell here for the age. Obviously that's not my age. Let's close the bracket. So my name is Yasser, my age is 13. Okay. And then what we can do, let me finish this off. Comma, let's have a full stop. I am in year, okay, let's have a space, comma, let's click on this cell here, comma again, speech marks, and I am in year 13 and my form class is, and we can have a space, comma, speech marks again, oh sorry, close the speech mark before the comma, whoops, what am I doing, and then we can click on 9 red, close the bracket, let's press enter. So my name is Yasser, which is taken from this cell here, and my age is 13, which is taken from this cell. I am in year 9, okay, so 9 comes from here. If I change that to 8, for example, that should change, and my form class is 9 red. If I change this to 9 blue, for example, that should also change. So let's double click here. So you can see we've got text strings in speech marks separated by commas. So this is the first text. This name is the second piece of text. We have a comma. The third piece of text is my age is, and then this is the fourth piece of text. Let's save the changes. And let's now look at task 6 if statements. Okay, so what we have here are employee names, how many hours they worked, and we're going to include an if statement to show either full-time or part-time. So what's the criteria? So if the employee has worked less than 25 hours, they're going to be part-time. If this is not true, then they're going to be full-time. So let's look at this person here. Have they worked less than 25 hours? No, it's not true. So therefore they will be full-time. Now Mohammed, he has worked less than 25 hours, so he will be part-time. So the if statement is basically in 3 different parts. We start by typing an equal if, read the description again, checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. So let's double click on if. So for the logical test, what we need to check is the hours worked, and we want to check to see if the hours are less than 25. So we click on this cell here which contains the hours. Let's type in less than 25. That's what we're checking to see. Comma. Now if this test is true, this person has worked less than 25 hours, we are going to say if it's true, in speech marks, they are part-time. Okay, so that's if the formula is true. If it's not true, let's get to the false, so we need to press comma again. So this becomes active now. So if they haven't worked 25 hours, this is not true, it's false, then we will show full-time instead. So again, include your speech marks, close your speech marks, close your bracket, and you can see there's 3 parts of the formula here. So you have your logical test based on the hours worked, is it less than 25? If it's true, then it's going to show part-time. If it's not true, it's going to show full-time. Let's press enter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this formula true. So let's enter 22. Now 22 is less than 25, so therefore the formula will become true, and what we should have is part-time. Okay, so this number is less than 25, so this formula is now true. We show part-time. If I change it back to 40, 40 is obviously not less than 25. Now the formula becomes false. Let's drag this down. Okay, so that's the first if statement. Now the second if statement is going to be slightly more complicated. Now the criteria is going to be if you sell more than your target, then we're going to add £500 to your salary, which is here. If you haven't sold more, then your salary is going to stay the same. So again, equal if, and the conditions basically will be have they sold more than their sales target. So more would be 21 or more basically. So is this cell greater than this cell? Comma. And if it's true, because we're going to be doing a calculation now, we don't want to put it into speech marks, we're going to click on salary, and then we're going to add 500, so plus 500. So in this case, Ahmed has sold more than his target, so his salary will become 1500, so we add 500 to 1000. However, if it's not true, so the false value, so if you press comma, If he doesn't sell more, then the salary will remain the same. So we can just click on this cell again and close the bracket. So in this example, he did sell more, so the formula was true. This part was carried out. Okay, let's make it false. Let's make it 19. So now obviously 19, this is not more than the sales target, so therefore we can't add 500, so the false part of the statement is shown, and we just return the salary as it is. So it's 1000. So let's go back to what it was, so 22. And again, we can replicate this formula, we can drag it down. Okay, so this one stayed the same. This one for Mohammed, he's had an increase, and for Saif, he's obviously not met his sales target, so his salaries stay the same as well. Okay, so now things are starting to get a little bit more complicated. So we're looking at if statements again, but we're going to be using AND, where we're going to have multiple conditions which have to be true, and also using OR, where one of the conditions have to be true to get the true statement. So let's read the comment. So to achieve a pass, both grades have to be more than 50. So this and this have to be more than 50. So again, we start with equal if, and this time before we do anything, we're going to type in AND. So it checks whether all arguments are true and returns the true if all arguments are true. So we do AND. So the first logical test is going to be this English paper 1. Is that more than, so it has to be more than 50. So more than 50, comma, and let's check for the second logical test. So, and also this one has to be more than 50 as well. Close the bracket, and then you return back to the if statement. If they're both true, then Abdullah has passed. So let's put in speech marks, pass. Close the speech mark. If it's not true, if one of these is less than 50, then Abdullah has failed. Let's just put fail. Close the speech mark, close the bracket. So what we have is a pass. Ahmed should pass as well because both of his are above 50. However, Ali has failed because English paper 1 was below 50. So both of these papers have to be above 50 to pass. Now with the OR, let's have a look at the OR. If students have scored less than 35 in any of the exams, they will be entered for the foundation exam. If students have achieved more than 35 with both exams, they will be entered for the higher. So only one of these have to be lower for them to be entered into foundation. So you can see Abdullah will be foundation since his history paper 2 is only 23. Both of these are higher. Ali will be foundation because again his history paper 2 is less than the condition required. So only one of them has to be true for them to be entered into the foundation. So the logical test is going to be, we've got two conditions, so or, if this one is less than 35, comma, or if this is less than 35, let's close the bracket to get back to the if statement, one of them only has to be less than 35. If it's true, then we're going to enter them for foundation. Close the speech marks, comma. If it's not true, both of them are above basically 35. So this is not true. Then we're going to enter them for, was it higher? Yeah, it was higher. So let's enter those speech marks, higher, and then close the bracket, press enter. So as we said before, Abdullah is going to be foundation because one of his papers is less than 35. Ahmed isn't because both his papers are above 35. However, Ali will be foundation because this paper's less than 35. Let's increase this to 45, for example. So now both these papers are above 35. So this or this is not less than 35. So therefore, it's going to be entered as higher. For Abdullah, one of these papers were less than 35. This one in particular. So therefore, he's going to be entered for the foundation paper. So the AND basically needs to make sure both of these logical tests are true. For the OR, only one of the logical tests has to be true to show the true statement. Okay, so now we've come to the end of this first video. So what I'm going to be doing is the second part in a separate video. So in the second video, we're going to be looking at the more complicated functions and formulas. So we're going to be looking at nested if statements where we have multiple conditions. Then we're going to be looking at lookups, both vertical and horizontal. Okay, so you got a H lookup there. Then we're going to be focused on VLOOKUPs using extract functions. So we may use a left, right, or mid as part of the lookup. And then we're just going to be doing lookup. So VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP are different to just the lookups. So the lookups allows you to go backwards to find information, or to look up vertically or horizontally. We're going to be using the if statement with extract functions for this task, so it's going to get more and more challenging. And finally, we're going to be doing VLOOKUPs with extract functions, and also we're going to be using a value function to extract values out of a text string. So I'm going to be creating a second video, and hopefully I will be posting this video tomorrow. Okay, so thanks for your time. Please like and share this video, drop your comments below.